Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Week 12 video reflection, or vlog, if you will, of everything that's been happening here in Room 110 at NVHS. So everything in integrated science and biology. Going to be looking back at the dates that were last week and a little bit of what was the beginning of this week. Okay, so we're kind of going from the 11th to the 15th and a little bit of the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Okay. Today is Thursday, the 21st of November. We're a week away from Thanksgiving. Time is starting to fly here at NVHS. We're nearing the end of our first semester. Winter sports season officially began this past Monday with basketball practice. And the weather is officially changing. All right, starting to get cold. I've got a little bit of a cold, a little bit of a head thing going on here. So change is in the air, figuratively and literally. With our movement through the semester here at Nemaha Valley. I think I'm finally starting to see some additional buy-in from some students who have yet to really embrace the process. And there was a moment a couple days ago where I looked at one of our pairs in our classroom and I said, oh my God, I think they were genuinely invested in that conversation and trying to learn. So it's taken some time, but as I've said about each one of these videos, change takes time. And we're just going to keep nose to the grindstone and keep going. But it's been a good week. Been a very productive week. Been a very productive semester so far, for the most part. Okay. We'll start off with integrated science today. We officially finished Unit 3 last week with our Unit 3 test. Everything over Earth's materials. 24 questions on the test were taken straight from Quizlet. I've been typing the vocab terms and the phrases into Quizlet here for each unit, for each class, integrated science and biology. 24 of the questions were taken verbatim from Quizlet. There's a little test generator button I can push, and it generates a test for me. I had 12 of the questions were matching, where I gave the vocab term, and then you had to select the phrase that went with it from a drop-down menu. And the remaining 12 were matching, but I gave you the phrase, and you had to select the term. We should do pretty well on that. Technically, our students should do well on that. They've got that vocabulary, they've got that Quizlet program made available to them from the very beginning of the unit. Some students knock that out, get 24 out of 24, and some of us are still struggling because I don't think we start studying the vocabulary or recognizing vocabulary usage throughout the unit until the very end. So it's an issue we'll keep trying to tackle. I don't know another way around it, but we are going to use something different here in this unit. I've started to attach vocab pages to the guided reading for each one of the textbook sections. So students are going to have to fill out a little information about the vocabulary while they read each textbook section for each class period, or the assigned class periods. So we might be exposing ourselves to the vocabulary ahead of time, but that's for the students that actually choose to do it. 25 questions on the test were multiple choice, taken straight from the formative quizzes and the review sessions that we had prior to the test. So questions that they would have seen before, or questions that were very similar to questions that they have seen before. Again, should have done rather well on that, and the majority of them did. It's the vocab that I was kind of surprised about. 5 questions were over the rock cycle, over a diagram of the rock cycle, which we went over directly in class and had practice questions on the formative quizzes and on the practice worksheets. And then 20 questions. 20 questions were from rock and mineral identification. So we set up some lab benches around the room with various samples of rocks and minerals, and there were questions about them. Students didn't have to necessarily know each sample name, but they had to understand a variety of information that was covered throughout the unit in order to answer the questions correctly. So we asked about general physical traits of maybe that specimen, or a trait that that specimen or that sample could display. We also then just did ask, what was this? What is this? Okay, so questions that ranged the entire unit were asked during our little 20-question sampling session. Again, for the majority of the part, students did well on this. Okay, so that's a little bit of the structure of the test. Performance-wise, one of our blocks averaged to 76%, another block 59%, and another block 74%. Those test scores go hand in hand with preparation. I can tell you that the block that scored the lowest of the three rarely Rarely did the majority of them have the homework completed for the class period that it was assigned for. Okay? And that's something we talked about with the students. There's a direct correlation between the time you put in and the score that you receive. That block just seems pretty content with being at that level. And we're fighting it, and we'll continue to try to address it and approach it. But the block that scored 59%, it goes hand in hand with their preparation and how well they did their work throughout the unit, which wasn't very well. Rarely did the majority of us show up prepared and ready to go. The other two blocks did a pretty good job throughout the unit with being prepared. We had some really high scores in some of those blocks, and we had some low scores, but I do know that we have a few students that aren't fantastic test takers. And for that, we've implemented the retake timeline into this unit. And it's something I talked about with the students. I allow for unit retakes, okay? So test retakes. Now, it's not going to be the same test. It's going to be an alternative assessment that's going to be of the same rigor, probably the same format, and it's going to test the same concepts. If I'm going to take time to put together an alternative test, students are going to have to take time to remediate and re-prepare for that alternative test. So the process goes something like this. For integrated science, they have to talk to me by this Friday, the 22nd. We talked about this at the beginning of the week. They need to come in and talk with me. It needs to be a conversation that's two ways. I just spent 4.5, 5 weeks telling them everything they needed to know, conducting, facilitating, carrying out the class. Now they come to me and tell me what I need to do for them in addition. Okay, so they need to look through their exam, look back through the unit, come up with some of the concepts and ideas that they weren't understanding, maybe they didn't get, pinpoint some of the major issues. Students need to do some of the legwork with this. I can do this. I've already done this. But I need to hear it from them. I need their perspective. So we have a conversation by the 22nd, this Friday, of basically what went wrong, what went well, what we need to do. And it's a student-led conversation with me, sometime before school or during seminar or other free time throughout the day. We develop an action plan during that conversation. We'll then kind of pinpoint another date the following week where we will re-meet. We'll meet again to talk about any progress or any issues or any complications. And I may give them a little additional work to complete prior to that date. We may just look back through and complete some of the homework that never was completed. Interesting concept, doing something for the first time to get prepared for the test. We then establish a date that the reassessment has to be taken by, and that's going to be the following, typically the following Friday, but for next week it's going to be Tuesday, the 26th. Now I'll be here Wednesday, the day we don't have school, so we could arrange a time then. But basically it's hey, we're moving on to the next unit, let's get things going, let's get things remediated, let's get this bad boy knocked out. If you're interested in reassessment. Now, that's just if the kids are interested. They don't have to. I'm not forcing anybody. But if they're interested. And that goes for students that scored a 25% and want to try to bump it up to a 50. Or that goes for students that scored a 75 and want to bump it up to an 80. Or 90% students that want to make sure that they try to get 100. So anybody is open for reassessment and taking this test. I will take the highest score as well. So whatever translates as the highest score, that will go in underneath the unit test inside of the grade book. So that's a little bit about the Unit 3 test for integrated science, a little bit about the retake timeline. We have moved on to Unit 4, which is all about Earth's changing surface. So we've looked at internal processes, we've looked at Earth's materials that are formed through those internal processes and other processes. Now we're moving on to the external forces that are constantly reshaping and changing the surface of our planet here on Earth. That's kind of what we're covering with that unit in Unit 4. It's going to take us all the way up until Christmas break. So we'll have tests, I believe, the 19th and 20th. I think that's the Thursday, Friday prior to Christmas break, or so 20th and 21st and 22nd. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head right now, but we go right up until Christmas break, and we'll take the unit test on those 2 days prior to break. The process is going to be similar to Unit 3. We'll have video instruction outside the classroom. Students will complete some guided reading and a little bit of vocabulary work while reading through the text as well. Come into class prepared, ready to go, ready to discuss, and we'll carry out some activities in that day inside of that class period. A lot of these concepts are kind of difficult to demonstrate and show live inside of the classroom or outside. So we're going to do quite a few online simulations and virtual labs with this unit. to kind of, again, see the concepts in motion, actually visualize and see what's going on with some of these big ideas that we're talking about in Unit 4. I'm excited for this unit. I think it's a pretty fun, pretty interesting unit because you're actually talking about some tangible things that you can go and see and go and do. We just don't have a lot of it around here. But we'll do our best to try to pull in that live, tangible stuff into the classroom. But what we can't, we'll supplement with some online simulations, online animations, and some online lab work. Biology. Says for integrated science. Biology. The retake for Unit 3 is available for our students. They already needed to come and talk to me. They already needed to come talk to me last week, and the retake has to happen by this Friday. Had three students of our 50-plus students were interested in retaking the Unit 3 test. I'm not surprised. I guess. The students that typically get things done ahead of time scored well on the test, and the students that didn't, they struggle with ambition and general interest in scoring well and doing well. So I'm not super surprised. I'm not disappointed either. We're just going to keep on keeping on. We talk about this and address this in class all the time. But we'll just keep on keeping on here. But only three of us out of the 50-plus chose to retake. The average score for that test was right around a 70 again. So we are either content with what we got and we're content with what we have in the class right now, or we just don't flat out care. And that's tough. We got to continue to battle that, and we will. We're midway through Unit 4 here in biology, which is all about the structure and function of cells. We've knocked out Lesson 1, 2, and 3. We've looked at general cellular information and the microscopy behind it. We've also talked about the cell theory. That's all Lesson 1. And we also looked at the common features of cells and prokaryotes versus eukaryotes, the two major types of cells. It's all Lesson 1. Knocked that out. Got that down. Lesson 2 is all about the cell membrane and how amazing of an organelle it is, amazing of a cellular structure it is, and its constant work that it's doing for us. And we also looked at other major common organelles that we see in eukaryotic cells. That was Lesson 2. And Lesson 3 is all about the movement of materials in and out of cells, so cellular transport. So we talked about passive and active transport, and we're wrapping that up today. But all the material for Lessons 1, 2, and 3 is in for Unit 4, which is going to go all the way through the first week and a half of December. Excuse me. But now, we are done covering new content until we come back from Thanksgiving. Our focus shifts to only being on the cellular campaigns. The cell campaigns, I think our students are enjoying this process so far, but there are tons of moving parts. And I've got the point breakdown in the rubric online for our students to view, and we've handed that out in class. Each student has been assigned an organelle with a buddy, and they're basically developing a campaign, a presentation to keep themselves inside of the cell. Okay, we use the cell factory analogy, and they're campaigning to not be voted out. We've come under some budgetary constraints, and we've got to boot one of these organelles out. And essentially, they're developing a campaign to keep themselves in. So they're talking about how valuable they are, and maybe how invaluable some of the other organelles are. We're going to be gathering, and all this material is due before Thanksgiving break. And again, I'm here the Wednesday before Thanksgiving break, so students could potentially turn some stuff in then. But we'll be sitting down, and we'll be setting up a campaign plan with me. So we'll be going over the tweets that are part of the campaign and when they will be released. We'll be going over the TV commercials and what day they'll be released. Also, campaign poster placement and some other flyer placement throughout the school. So we're going to sit and kind of talk about how they're also going to execute this campaign, which will be December 2nd through 4th. And it will be executed throughout the school building, and we'll have live voting on the 5th on which organelle from each block should be booted out of the cell. The process so far for biology is going well, and it's also going not so well. It really varies. I haven't been able to pinpoint yet the cause and effect of some failure to complete homework on time. It varies from block to block and from day to day on how well some of the students complete their homework and are ready for class and are ready to go and are asking questions or engaged. Block 1 yesterday was really good. Pretty good block. Pretty good buy-in. Block 3, fantastic buy-in. Pretty good submission rates for the homework. Lots of catch-up had occurred. Block 4, however, disinterested as possible. Not many people completed their homework. Pretty disrespectful throughout class in terms of applying themselves to the process. However, that was a complete reversal on Monday. Block 1 and 3 really struggled, but Block 4 was really good. And Block 8, which is my one biology class every white day, again, varies. Some classes were hitting home runs out of the park. Other classes were really struggling. Now, I know there's many factors at play. There's other things going on besides biology. I know that. I'm involved in several other things as well. But it's interesting. I haven't been really able to pinpoint it because there's so much variation. Maybe it's because I have 4 blocks and there are 3 on one day and 1 on the other. I'm just not sure. But lots of variation in regards to students being successful with the process and being ready to go from class period to class period. But again, I do see a slight increase every week in buy-in and understanding of the process and just getting things going. All right. Some days I'm so proud of some of our students and their ability to work through it, get things done, and be ready to go. It's just awesome when that happens. It's awesome because then the learning inside the classroom is fantastic. It's fantastic. And you can really see the looks on their faces as, oh my God, I got this, and I've achieved this, and I've done this, and I'm doing it. But I am assigning quite a bit of work. I'm holding the feet to the fire, and we are going to get through this. Now, again, I don't penalize for things being late or not being done on time, but I will get after them about it because I got plenty of time to get things done and plenty of time to be ready to go. But I do understand there are some other circumstances that can cause for delay every now and then. But we'll continue to work through it. Okay, that does it for this video reflection. As you can see, I was a little wordy this time, but we had a lot of material to reflect back on and to cover. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, contact me. For the most part, things are going well. We're doing good. We've just got to break through with some of those students still, and we got to figure out why this variation of completion and submission is occurring in biology. But keep tabs of the Nemaha Valley Science website. That's the home plate for everything that's going on inside of room 110. And thanks for watching. See you guys later.